bees.
Yes, they're all around me now. All over the canopy, trying to get in.
Well, get above them, man. Take it up.
I can't, sir. I am losing power. Oh, my God!
Hello and welcome to the end of the world, episode 31. I'm here with Travis.
31. Hey.
Yeah, 31 episodes in, man. We've been doing this for many, many months now.
Hey, we have.
It seems like it's been a lot longer, just how much has changed in the world.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we're recording this back to back with hundreds of beavers, so if you just came from listening to that, you know what's been going on in the world. But apparently we have a king now. King, Master, and Blaster have taken over and have decided that they get to decide what law is.
Yeah,
And
that part.
literally referred to himself as king. So there's also that. Yeah, it's a weird timeline we're living in. And yeah.
We had a good run. I mean, I don't know how good it was, but
yeah.
We had a chance to get better, but
Yeah. We did.
We just didn't go down that timeline.
We did
There's
not.
a version of us somewhere out there living it up.
Yeah. There's a version at some kind of fulcrum in history that made some better choices, and that timeline is currently reaping the benefits.
They might
Is
even
currently,
have UBI. They might have, you know.
we're kind of seeing the downside of a lot of things. It's been an interesting couple of days. Good news, I signed my contract for next year, so I'm
Hey.
employed. I have a
There
job
you go.
for next year.
That is a big deal, especially for a teacher.
Yeah, I got that under the bag. So there's
Yep.
that. Yeah, nothing else really happening too much around here. Just kind of trying to survive and get through the day by day, day by day. Currently, we got a snowstorm here in Memphis. And so I've been off of work for the last couple of days. This is Wednesday, and I'm off of work for tomorrow as well on Thursday. So
I can't imagine that y'all
got
are used to
snowed
snow
in.
up there.
So it happens like once. It's so basically I was told before I moved to Memphis, like it never snows. I've lived here for almost 10 years now, which is crazy to say out loud because that means I've lived here for a long time now. Two, but like it snows like every single year. This will be it snowed in January. We had like 3 days of snow, and now here in February we've got like this will be day 2. It's not snowing tonight, but it is going to get down to like I think 8 degrees, 7 degrees, something like that. With the wind chill, it's going to be like -5, -6, something like that. So everything that melted is just going to freeze. So,
absolutely.
And a lot of people here in Memphis do not know how to drive, period, let alone when there's bad weather. And so adding that on top of it makes for a dangerous situation.
And this is about the most dangerous driving condition you can think of, where everything refreezes.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to get out in it no matter what. I don't have to go to work, but I do have to take my wife to work. So
right, just drive slow, be careful.
Oh yeah, I've done it before.
Oh, you've done it before, yeah.
She unfortunately does not have the benefit of getting told, "Hey, don't come in." She has to go in for some stuff tomorrow. So we're gonna drive slow and safe and get her there. And thankfully, she doesn't have to go in until closer to 10. So by that point, it's not going to really warm up, but there'll be some sun out for a little while, you know.
Okay.
And people will have driven on things, so it'll kind of, dislodge a lot of the initial ice and stuff that are going to be on some of the roads. So anyway, that's it for us. Anything going on with you?
It's more of the same. Just getting beat down by the tax season, but
Yeah, well, are you feeling any better? Last time you were sick as a dog.
Oh, I have actually. I feel better in a lot of ways, but boy, is it still hanging on.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I've been
trying
to avoid it myself.
Oh yeah. Luckily, this isn't something, it didn't end up being something very serious. It just has been really annoying, which I can handle that. I mean, honestly, if that's the
Yeah.
worst it gets, I'm okay.
I hate going to the doctor, so it's not like I
Oh
have
yeah.
an aversion to it. I just don't like going to any place where I have to just sit down and wait forever. I
Seriously.
just so instead I like teledoctors. It's kind of become a
Mm-hmm.
thing in since COVID,
Yeah.
and my insurance pays for us to have a teledoctor. So a lot of the time, whenever I don't feel good, I'll just do a teledoctor,
Yeah.
because they can actually send you a note. They do everything, like, especially if it's like, oh, I'm sick, like I have a
Mm-hmm.
cold or I have the flu, where it's like I kind of know what I have. It's not like I'm coughing up blood, you know. It's nothing serious. It's like, yeah, this is something simple. Those are, I
Yeah.
think it's really helpful, because then I can just call someone and they can FaceTime you, and they can look at you and be like, okay, yeah, I'll send your medicine to Walgreens, and it's like, cool, thanks. I'll go pick it up in a
Yeah.
couple hours. I don't have to leave the house. It's
Heck
perfect.
yeah.
It's wonderful.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoy telehealth, teledoctors.
Oh, absolutely.
They're probably maybe not the most credentialed. I don't know. That's my guess. But I feel like a lot of doctors probably do it on the side to make a little bit of extra bucks.
I
It's
totally
kind of one
believe
of those
that.
things. I always thought lawyers made a lot of money until I started meeting and hanging out with lawyers. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no, a lot of you don't make as much as I thought you do.
Oh yeah.
Some of you do, but not everybody. A lot of
Yeah.
people, a lot of lawyers are struggling paycheck to paycheck, just like the rest of us. You know,
Oh
it kind of
wow.
kind of is how it is. A lot of the clients sometimes don't pay, and the you're trying to get your name out there, and so on and so
Oh.
forth. Anyway,
Yeah.
story for a different day. Story for
Yeah,
tonight
right.
is from 1978, July 14th, 1978 to be specific. The
Mm,
Swarm.
the
Um,
swarm.
Directed by Irwin Allen, who died in 1991, was originally a
Hmm.
journalist, then kind of moved into movies. Got
Oh.
very, very big in the 60s and 70s with the disaster movie craze.
Yep.
So he either directed or produced a lot of movies: Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Poseidon Adventure, Beyond the
Mm.
Poseidon Adventure, Towering Inferno. It was two-time Oscar nominee for Towering Inferno that got nominated for some
Oh.
awards. And Irwin Allen, I can't speak.
Mm.
He also created Lost in Space, so that was kind of his
Oh,
other
no
big.
kidding.
Yes, yes, he was the original creator of the classic '60s sci-fi Lost in Space.
Maybe that's why I'm recognizing the name.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
Irwin Allen's Lost in Space, a classic of '60s sci-fi, and
Oh,
for those
yes.
millennials, it was remade for us, starring Matthew from Friends.
Yep.
Uh,
I know his
which
last name.
Matthew?
I just can't
Oh,
remember.
I was gonna say, is it? Oh God, I can't remember his last name either.
Joey from Friends.
Joey from Friends. Yeah, there you go, Joey.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Friends much. Didn't I?
No.
Not a big Friends fan. I loved
No.
Seinfeld growing up. That was kind of my
Oh,
jam.
yes.
But I never really liked Friends. It was kind
Yeah,
of
Friends
I was just
didn't
like,
grab me.
never really hooked me. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, they remade that. It I was not very good, but it has
It
kind of
was.
like been rediscovered as like a cult audience now, where some
Oh, okay.
people really seem to love Lost in Space. So maybe I'm wrong.
I
maybe it's
remember watching
amazing.
it kind of a lot when I
Yeah.
was a kid, or I say kid, but younger. Um, but yeah, I remember watching it, and
Yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of the original show.
Uh,
Sometimes there's like parts of me like I really want to go back and watch the original show, but I've tried. I remember, and I was like, oh, this is so outdated. But now I think I've got enough years behind me where I'm like, I think I'm just gonna appreciate that now. So.
yeah, yeah. So for
Especially with like how I
me,
deal with these kind of shows and movies, like I'm really
yeah.
picking up like the '70s vibe.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say for me, I was familiar with a lot of Irwin Allen movies besides
Hmm.
Lost in Space, because my mom was a big disaster movie fan, is a
Oh
big
yeah.
disaster movie fan. So growing up as a kid, we watched Towering Inferno, Poseidon's
Hmm.
Adventure, Earthquake, Black
Yep.
Sunday. We watched a lot of these disaster movies uh, over and over and over again, and so I kind
Hmm.
of have an appreciation for those. That's maybe kind of where I started my love of
I
like
was gonna
post-apocalyptic
say
movies, because so like
it's
is would you can so this is obviously a disaster movie, right?
yes.
Clearly, but it's also kind of an pre-apocalyptic movie, because the threat is a global one. It's
Oh,
just that
absolutely.
currently they're isolated in Texas because of a weather pattern. But
And
even
we
Michael
know
Caine at
it's
the end is like, well, we don't know if we can stop them, but maybe we've done a little bit here.
yeah.
So,
Well, I was gonna say
spoiling
we
the end of the
definitely
movie.
know. Oh yeah, we definitely know it's a global concern because Michael Caine yells it a
He
couple of
does.
times,
He
and
has, yes. We'll talk about his acting performance here in a moment. Yes, yes, we will.
oh, I
Cannot
just had to
ignore
bring it
that
up a
part.
little.
Yeah, so I feel like that is the difference between a disaster movie and an apocalyptic movie is the size of the threat, right? Like
Right.
Towering Inferno is a threat to just that isolated area, right? Now,
Yes.
if in the middle of Towering Inferno, Fred Williamson or someone said, "Look, what if all towers could inferno?" Then hey, now we're spreading now we're spreading the wealth, but we don't quite get that in this movie. We definitely have established that the bees might be a threat for all. Um,
Yes.
so Irwin Allen, beyond Lost in Space and beyond being an influence in my childhood, he also
Hmm.
kind of set the standard because of his successes of disaster movies of what a disaster movie should kind of look and feel like in terms of
Yeah.
the size of the cast, the budget, the scope and the length of the movie, the production values. A lot of that you see repeated in even like movies as modern as like 2012, that John Cusack movie that came out
Oh
not too
yeah.
long. Like that kind of a movie, you see a lot of the similarities here. Day After Tomorrow,
Hmm.
another similar one, where
Oh
you
yeah.
have these disaster movies, Volcano, where you have a lot of that borrow a lot of similarities from a lot of these Irwin Allen movies from the 70s.
Hmm.
And I get it because they made a shitload of money. This one
Yeah.
didn't. This one was awful.
Oh
So we'll
yeah.
talk about it. But a lot of them made a lot of money.
Oh
So,
yeah.
I could kind of see why you'd get into it. Um,
Yeah.
so our writer here is Sterling Silliphant. He is
That's a
a
hell of a name.
can Yeah, he is a Canadian immigrant who came over to America. He's a TV writer in the 50s and 60s. He's also quite prolific. He wrote Village of the Damned, In the Heat of
Oh,
the Night, which won him an Oscar.
hey.
The Poseidon Adventure, that's his first
Yeah.
time working with Irwin Allen. Towering Inferno, another one. He also wrote The Enforcer, the Clint Eastwood movie.
Oh yeah.
And he also wrote Over the Top with Sylvester
Awesome.
Stallone. Yeah, the arm wrestling movie.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say the best arm wrestling
Yes, sir.
redemption. What was like getting your winning your kid back
Yes,
movie?
yes. Winning your kid back through
Oh,
arm
and
wrestling.
Trucker movie,
Yes.
and
It's
it's got
multi-layered, that
everything.
movie. Eventually that will have to be on a Now for something completely different
Oh, it
episode
has
because
to.
that's a classic so bad it's good movie.
Oh, I
And
love that
the
movie.
speaking of so bad it's good, the last movie that I wrote down that he wrote is a personal classic to me. It's a movie that I used to own when I was in college, and
Ooh.
it's a movie I used to put on for people as like whenever someone was like, "What kind of movies do you like?" This was an example of a movie that I really much liked. He wrote Shaft in Africa,
Oh.
the brother man in the motherland.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
That's the tagline for Shaft in Africa. I have it memorized because I used to, and I used to own a copy of it. I don't own it anymore,
No.
but I need to buy it again. I don't remember what happened
Yeah.
to it. It's one of those movies that I had it when I was in college, had it on DVD, bought it from Hastings for like $5 back in the day.
Yeah.
The plot is ridiculous. It is a fun time though.
Mm.
It's basically exactly what you would think. Shaft from the movie Shaft goes to Africa to
Yeah.
fight the apartheid, and yeah, that's the entire
Oh.
movie.
All right. I'm all the
It's
way
a
on
good time.
board.
It's a good time. It's a wonderful time. And more people should watch Shaft in Africa, the brother man in the motherland. Uh,
I'm surprised I
Good
haven't
time.
seen it because I love those kind of movies, like the black exploitation movies.
Yeah,
Like
blaxploitation movies. Yeah, they're
I
fantastic.
love I love those movies.
Yeah, those are the movies that I think of whenever we talk about 70s movies. That's where
Yes,
my mind goes first.
absolutely.
Is usually those followed by like um car racing movies from the
Yes.
70s,
It's
like right afterwards.
so like
Like
that's funny
Vanishing
because
Point.
I actually
Um
just recently watched Cannonball Run 2.
yeah, Cannonball
So
Run, Cannonball
those
Run
kind of
2.
movies are in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much where my mind goes when it comes to 70s movies first.
Yes.
So this is based on a novel written by Arthur Herzog, who also wrote the novel that became the movie Orca, Killer Whale, which is another movie
Oh.
that I own a DVD copy of.
Killer bees,
Our
killer whales. I'm starting to see a pattern.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Our cast is sprawling. This is a
Oh
disaster
yeah.
movie by Irwin Miller or Irwin Allen, sorry.
Yep.
So obviously the cast is quite large. So we'll
Oh
talk
yeah.
about a couple of them, but the cast in total, the notable ones at least, are Michael Caine, Catherine Ross, Richard Widmark, Richard Chamberlain,
Mhm.
Olivia D. Havilland, Ben Johnson, Lee Grant, Jose Ferrar, Patty Duke, Slim Pickens, Bradford Dillman, Henry Fonda, and Fred McMurray are all
Mhm.
in this movie in some capacity or another. Michael Caine, probably familiar to a lot of people from
Oh yeah.
the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, kind of become one of his bigger roles since he kind of was
It
Alfred in those.
Yeah, that would probably be the most recent thing. Like,
Yeah,
that's a good point. I was gonna say Italian Job or something, but
yeah.
I'm
Was in a bunch of
I'm definitely
70s movies. Like was
yeah.
in all kinds of stuff in it. And it was in also in way more been in a ton of like romantic comedies and things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
He's a very
One of my
prolific actor.
one of my favorite movies he's in is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with
Yeah,
Steve Martin. I
yeah.
love that
Fantastic in
movie.
that. Fantastic in that. Yeah. Here here for a paycheck in this movie.
Oh
Here
yeah.
for a paycheck. Actually, it fully admitted that this movie bought his mother a house.
Oh,
Um
hey, there you
so
go.
in fact,
Yeah,
didn't even
so
read the script before signing on to it. Just saw the cast and said, "Yeah, sure, that's it.
sure.
I'll sign it." Didn't even read the fucking script. And
Uh, you
should we
know,
talk about his acting style now? Because needless, it's kind of bipolar, schizophrenic,
it's the
even right.
it
He's either
really is.
like calm, stoic whispering, or
Yeah.
frantic screaming. That's it. There's no in
With
between.
and there's no
No,
direction to the
no,
screaming either. He's
no.
just getting loud,
He just
and
gets
that's
so
it.
angry. He just
It's
starts screaming. Imagine like your father disappointed in you for coming home drunk. Just like, yeah, damn it. I'm just like, why is he so mad? Why are you
and
so mad, Michael?
he's just trying to get a point across, and he's just yelling it, and I'm like, oh, I can't like focus on your point at
I
all.
don't know. I feel like the director was like, "All right, Michael. So give me a take as like kind of like a calm, stoic, collected response to this. Like you're handling the stress of this position well." He's like, "All right." He's like, "Okay, now give me another take where you're losing your fucking mind." And then they were like, "All right, we'll just use both." Like, and they
Yeah,
just
it's
intersplice them because sometimes he'll be like talking to the general and he'll be like, "And your point here, General. Go ahead." And the general's like, "Well, my point, sir." And he describes it, and he's like, "What you don't seem to understand, you stupid fucking ant." And I was just like, "What the hell? Like, why
yeah,
is he doing this?" And it doesn't make any sense. How
it
is this the same
doesn't.
person? Did you miss your medicine today? Like, what
Yeah,
is going
really.
on? Why are you acting like this?
Yeah,
This
because
the stress is
he's
clearly getting to you.
it's so good.
At the same
Uh,
time, sometimes it's not getting to him at all. Sometimes he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go for a
yeah,
drive with my girlfriend,
yeah, just
Helena." Oh Lord,
that was such a like. I guess we have a love story now.
God, there's so many subplots in this fucking movie. We'll get to that in a
Oh yeah.
second. So
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. It's
Helena,
oh boy.
So yeah, Michael Caine is his character in this movie is Brad. Yeah, there you go, Brad. But almost no one calls him by his last name. Pretty much everyone just calls him Crane. So as
Yeah.
I describe him, I might just call him Kane instead of Crane because that's the thing
Okay.
that's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
It's oh
It's
absolutely.
basically the same. Helena is played by Catherine Ross, who would go on to be in Donnie Darko and Stepford
Ah.
Wives, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Mhm.
She also was in Redheaded Stranger with Willie Nelson and The
Oh, okay.
Legacy
Yeah.
with Sam Elliott. Some fun
Far
time movies
out.
there. Some good old
Yeah.
movies there. Yeah. She also Oscar nominee. A lot of the cast here are Oscar nominees. So pretty much almost all of the main cast all got nominated for an Oscar at some point or another in their lifetime. So you can
Wow.
see why Michael Caine was like, "Yeah, I'll just sign on based on the cast alone."
Yeah.
Fortunately, the script is what they're reading is kind of important. especially in a movie like this where there's a lot of talking. A
Oh
lot of
man,
talking.
is there?
So, Slater is played here by Richard Widmark, and he played The Kiss of Death, which was it's a film noir movie from the 40s, which won him an
Oh, okay.
Oscar. He was also in The Alamo as Jim Bowie, and he was in
Mhm.
another disaster movie kind of thing with Roller Coaster, which is about a terrorist that threatens to kill people on roller coasters in America.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a movie that happened. And he also was in Murder on the Orient Express. So
Oh, okay.
lots of good movies there.
And that was that one. Like I'll say this about Murder on the Orient Express. That was a movie that really knew what it was doing. Like the newer one, the remake.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
does not compare.
yeah. Dr. Hubbard is played by Richard Chamberlain, another Oscar
Hmm.
nominee. He
Yep.
was also in Towering Inferno. He's
Hmm.
connected to another podcast episode of ours because he was in Four Musketeers, which was directed by Richard Lester, who directed Bed Sitting Room, which was
Hey.
one of our early episodes. Give that one a listen.
Yeah.
He was also in Twin Peaks, tons of TV shows, including Touched
Yeah.
by an Angel. So there's that.
Something we wouldn't have seen him in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Because we wouldn't see that show.
yeah. So yeah, that is pretty much our cast, and we'll talk about more of the background as we go on,
Yeah.
because a lot of it kind of intersplices with a lot of the plot of the movie. On needless to say, so
Yeah, and there's a lot of movie to get through because
there is a
it's
lot. So
it is a
yeah,
long movie.
there's actually two versions of this movie.
Okay, now
So
that I did not know.
yeah, so when this movie first came out, it was an hour and 56 minutes long. That
Oh,
was the
where's that
70s.
one?
Well, it was never released until 2024. It's only on the Blu-ray special edition features can you find the original theatrical cut of Swarm. Elsewhere,
Hmm.
since then, since it was released in the 90s on Laserdisc and DVD, we have only seen the version that you and I watched, which is 2 hours and 36 minutes long,
Fuck yeah, it is.
which honestly is way too fucking long. An hour and
Oh,
56 minutes is too fucking long. But 2 hours and almost 3 hour long movie about
yeah,
bees is fucking gratuitous.
it really
And I
was.
remember I texted you and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I had to split it in half. Like I
Oh,
watched half of
absolutely.
it, took a break, came back the next day, watched the other half, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
where was I again? Like I had to back it up a little bit to get context again to be like, okay, well, okay, yeah, that's where I was in the story. But yeah,
Is he
making it
screaming
through
or
it.
is he calm in this scene?
Oh Lord, yeah, it was a yeah. I would kill for the 2024 version that's only 2 hours long. The
Seriously.
other 45, 36 minutes, whatever the fuck it is, I do not need. No one needs that. It's
No.
ridiculous, but that's what they made. That is what they made. Yeah.
Ugh.
So before we get to the plot, let's do our Travis trivia.
Yeah, I'm ready. This is my
19,
era.
1978. So
I say this is my era. This is like 5 years before I was born.
I will say all of these songs are really good.
Oh, okay.
Some hints for you. I wrote some hints down for you here. Number one is a classic 70s song, classic 70s pop rock by
Yeah.
the fourth brother of a classic 70s, 80s band.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh
Number
man.
two. Number two is an amazing song. You've heard it before. You may not know the title, but if you put it on YouTube and play it, you'll immediately know it. I don't think you're
Yeah.
going to get the artist though.
Oh, okay.
Number three is a classic 70s number by a
Hmm.
70s classic disco band from Europe.
Oh, okay. I have an idea on that one.
Uh-huh. I thought that might help you. Number four and number five are very, very amazing artists. I actually own number four on my vinyl, kind of a classic of 70s soul. And number
Hmm.
five is a kind of like pop, not pop rock, kind of like hard rock, but not super hard, like dad rock stuff.
Oh, okay.
Definitely dad rock. My dad
Yeah.
definitely used to listen to this song. Yeah, oh yeah, my dad definitely used to crack a fucking Coors Light and listen to this shit. Yeah,
Oh God.
yeah,
Oh man,
yeah,
all I
yeah.
could think is the Coog, but that might be a little early.
It's a little early for the Coog. A little early for the
Yeah.
Coog. All right, what you got? Any guesses on any of those?
All right, so I have been thinking of this song recently.
Yeah,
I also just heard it randomly, but
yeah.
Earth, Wind, and Fire's September, maybe
Not. That's a good guess, but not on the top five. Not in the top
not on
five
the
here.
top five. Okay,
No,
well,
sir.
that leads me. Let's see. Well, now I'm trying to think of like dad rock songs. I mean, Journey comes to mind.
No
Uh,
journey. No journey.
no Journey. Now, oh, you said
Think
something
a
about like
little
the
bit more. Think a little bit more like southern and a little bit more like I drive a Chevy or a Ford. I don't give a fuck about you. That kind of
oh
the guy that listens to that would play this song.
God, I'm thinking like maybe Foreigner, maybe?
Now, I'll give you number five. Still the Same
Okay.
by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet
Bob
Band.
Seger.
Bob fucking Seger and the Silver
I was
Bullet Band,
dancing
baby.
around it.
Oh yeah, my dad used to fucking jam some fucking Bob
Oh,
Seger.
hell yeah.
I grew up with Bob Seger and the fucking Doobie Brothers, Journey,
Yes.
Boston, Chicago. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a
Hell
healthy
yeah.
diet of 70s and early 80s shit rock, as I affectionately call it.
I
Okay,
like it.
number four is 70s soul.
70s Soul. Now,
Hmm.
did you say this was a band?
It's a group. It's a group of
It's a
singers.
group.
Yeah, group
And
of
was this
singers.
the one from England or was that number three?
Number three was a group from Europe.
Oh, from
Europe,
Europe. Oh,
not
okay.
England at all. Not
Not
England at all.
England. Okay.
No England.
Well, then,
A
ah,
little
man,
disco-y. A little disco-y for number three.
little disco-y.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number four is a
For
little
the
soul. Uh-huh.
little
Number three is a little
soul.
disco-y. So number three is a little European
Soul.
disco. And number
Yeah,
three is number four is some American soul.
some soul. So maybe something like, I don't know, like Diana Ross, maybe something, maybe Gloria Gaynor.
Number four is You Used to Be My Girl by the OJs.
Oh, the OJs. There you
OJs.
go.
OJs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
See, I don't know why I was shying away from bands. I was going to artists for some reason.
Number three, that is the European
Oh,
disco. Any
that's got to be
guesses?
ABBA, right?
Yes, ABBA. Take a Chance on Me by ABBA.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes.
Number two, I don't think you're gonna get. It is an amazing song. It's Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty.
Oh, yeah, Baker Street with the killer sax
The
solo.
amazing saxophone. Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes,
I
yes, yes,
love it because let me tell you,
yes.
saxophone, that's the instrument I miss the most in modern music.
Yeah, yeah. See, I didn't know if I just said amazing sax intro, you would be like, oh yeah, Baker Street. Yeah.
I might have
So
said it.
like, I didn't.
I may
Oh
have
yeah.
forgot, but
I was gonna say I didn't know if you would know who did the song. That was the other thing.
oh,
It's
I
like,
definitely would not. I
mm.
just know the name of the
All right.
song.
Your hint for number one is the fourth brother of a group that was very popular in the 60s and in the 70s and a little in the 80s. I own a couple
Huh.
of their albums on vinyl. I have their first big album on vinyl because it's kind of like a psychedelic album. They started off as a psychedelic band before moving eventually into a little bit more pop and then eventually into like disco.
Hmm.
Any
Ooh,
guesses
that
on
one.
the
And you say they're
he was the fourth brother of that family.
brother. It's a
He had the
family.
he had the number one song in 1978.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say Jackson's, but I'm pretty sure I'm wrong.
Nope, nope. Unfortunately, nope, no
Yeah. No.
Jackson. So
Yeah.
Andy Gibb.
Oh, Big Gibbs. That was the other one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah. So the
Brothers
Gibb
Gibb.
family. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the Bee Gees started off as a psychedelic band and then kind of morphed into other things. But yeah, I
So I'm
have a
gonna be
couple
honest
of
with
their
you.
psychedelic albums at the
I did
beginning.
not know that, so I'm gonna have to go back and check that out.
Yeah, I'll send you some music. There is some yeah, the first couple of Bee Gees albums are all like total like Beatles kind of rip off shit, but
Really?
done pretty well. Like when the
Hmm.
Beatles got like really into psychedelica, the Bee Gees
Yeah.
also were like, let's get really into psychedelica. And they kind of did that for
Hmm.
the first couple albums until like this late 70s. They kind of switched it up a little bit. Yeah. So this song was Shadow Dancing, who he was the fourth brother who didn't actually live very long. He killed himself, I believe, around the age of 30.
Oh yeah.
So kind of had a sad existence there when it comes to
Yeah.
was not in the light for very, very long. But
Yeah, I'll be honest
had
with you. When
some
you,
really, really good songs.
I definitely I didn't know that much about the fourth. I've only known about the three. So yeah,
Yeah.
that one I didn't know about him. Well, that sucks. But hey, he had number one or number three, number four. Which one was it?
He was number one. He was number one. Yeah.
That's right. Well,
And
that's good.
10 years later, Andy Gibb would die. So
Ah,
he at this time he was only about 20 years old, and he had the number one song in the country, and he was the like I said, the fourth brother of the Bee Gees, and had a lot of really good songs: "Everlasting Love," "Thicker Than Water," "Time Is Time," "I Just Want to Be Your
mhm.
Everything," "Shadow Dancing." Like I said, this I
I'm
actually went and listened to this song because I had not heard it in a while, and then I
yeah,
listened to it, and then I realized that I actually have a K-Tel 70s album of like the top hits of the 70s, and it just happened
yeah.
to be from 1978, and this song was on that album. So I got
Oh,
to
there
just
you
go
go.
listen to the whole thing. It was like, okay. So
Yeah, I may
Shadow
have
Dancing is a good song.
heard some of these songs. I just don't realize it.
Yeah, yo, definitely. Yeah, you definitely have.
Yeah.
So, speaking of which, we'll move on out of here, and maybe I'll borrow the intro sax from Baker Street if we don't get copyright
Ooh.
struck. We'll see what happens,
Well,
and we'll come back and talk to you guys about the plot and a little bit about the background of The Swarm from 1978. See you in a second.
see,
Hello, everyone. Just a little update. We are adding an additional show on to the little rotation. So, in between when the podcast episodes come out each week, you can also see a little gaming series. So, me and my friend Jamie have been playing games together since we were probably 6 years old. And we're going to start playing some nostalgic games set in the post apocalypse that we enjoy. And so, you'll basically hear me talk shit to him as we play games and him do the same as we kind of go through some of our favorite games. So we're going to look at a bunch of different things, and pretty much all kind of post-apocalyptic nostalgic games you can think of. We've probably played them and enjoy them, and yeah, it'll be a fun time. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys with us playing Fallout New Vegas is the first one we're going to get into. So yeah, we're going to tackle the wasteland and play one of the coolest games that has come out in a long time. See you guys soon. Hopefully from Baker Street. We'll see if
hey,
the copyright claim happened or
if
not.
we can get it.
Well, let's talk about The Swarm from 1978. First
Oh
off,
boy.
this movie is terrible. Um,
Oh, it's so bad.
and because of the length of it, it goes beyond being like a fun bad to just kind of being like really kind of
Oh, it's
painful at a
it,
certain point.
it's like an endurance test. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is an endurance test. Yeah,
yes.
definitely an endurance test. Costing $21 million to make in 1978 money, making $7 million. So
Yikes.
not a lot of people wanted to go see this piece of shit. In
No.
fact, so much so that the director forbade anyone from speaking about it that worked with him afterwards. If you brought it up, he would have you escorted out of the building.
Wow.
Yeah, he was
Oh,
that
see,
sensitive
that's
about it. It really,
see,
really rubbed
that's
him the wrong way. But this was the first of 3 years of him just kind of like making bad movies. So, not three
oh,
years,
okay, yeah.
sorry, 3 movies in a row. So, he would follow this one up with Beyond Poseidon Adventure, which
Ooh,
also was awful. And then followed that up with another apocalyptic movie, When Time Run Out, which was also a disaster of a movie and did
yeah.
not make any of its money back. So, he kind of wore out his streak of making very successful disaster movies before this, and a lot of that started right here with The Swarm, which followed the same
Oh,
formula of a lot of his successful movies beforehand.
yes.
Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure. They both have
Hmm.
massive casts. They deal with these disasters on like an epic scale. This
Hmm.
one is the first one that begins to take it and expand it hypothetically to
Yeah.
a larger scale, right? Whereas
Oh,
those
yeah.
ones were like a tower, people were trapped inside, it's on fire. Poseidon Adventure, a ship is turned upside down. Everyone's worried about what's going to happen. It's very Titanic-y, you know.
Yep.
And then here we get Killer Bees. Killer Bees.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I
So
remember worrying about killer bees, like maybe at least once in my lifetime, being in this part of Texas.
Yeah.
this part of the world, it kind of comes up every now and again,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
um,
Speaking of
not
bees,
to this scale.
do you know how many bees were used in the making of this movie?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. There must have been. Oh, I was going to say swarms. Oh no!
15 to 22 million bees.
All right, that's way more many bees than I was expecting.
Yeah, 800,000 of those had their stingers removed.
Oh, I didn't know you could just do that.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, they tried to do that to increase the safety of some of the actors, and of course, a lot of the actors did get bitten.
Oh,
Some of
absolutely.
them had allergic reactions. Michael Caine was apparently eating what he thought was honey, turned out to just be bee shit the entire time. It was all these little yellow things all over his body, and he just kept being like, "Oh, I'll eat." Like, "Oh, what is this? Oh, it's pollen or honey. Eat it a little bit. It's nature." And then someone
Huh.
eventually told him, like, that's shit. You're eating shit. You're eating bee shit."
Could it have possibly tasted any good
I
or of
uh,
anything?
I don't know.
I
Who knows?
mean,
We'll have to ask Michael
you
Caine.
think after the first time you'd be like, "Well, this is really not worth it.
Yeah,
I could just
you would
brush
hope.
it off."
You would hope. You would hope. You would hope so. The fact that he kept doing it seems to imply that, like, something was enjoyable out of it.
I right?
Yeah. So at the time
Waste
when
not,
this,
want not, I guess.
yeah, when this movie came out in the 70s and going into the early 80s, this at the time for a while was considered one of the worst movies ever made. Um,
Ooh.
so it has kind of found a little bit of an audience of people that really appreciate it,
Phew.
but the length of it is definitely a problem with that because it
Yeah.
is closing in on 3 hours long, and it
Yeah.
doesn't need to at all. It just doesn't need to.
It's that's what kills it so bad it's good. Like, because
Yes.
I would
Yeah.
love to sit there and just rip, on a movie like this with
Oh
friends and
yeah.
everything,
If
just sit
this
in a room with you or
if this
something.
was
But
like a solid 90 minutes, perfect.
yeah, oh yeah, because
Be great. But
you could keep it going. But after a while, it's like, all right, I can't make another joke about
yeah,
this. Like,
yeah, 2 hours and 40. Holy shit.
yeah,
Like, did Martin Scorsese direct this? Why is it so fucking long? Like, what in the hell? So I guess we'll just get into it. We've been dancing around talking about it. The movie opens with its only really good feature, which is the music is really good.
yes,
The music is very good. So we see a bunch of guys somewhere in a military base doing things. They immediately
yeah.
find
Maybe
it
we,
completely empty, and everyone is dead except for Michael Caine, who is he's a well-respected van owner, so no one's really going to ask him too many questions. That man owns a kick-ass van.
yes.
Let him stay.
Oh man, and
Uh,
it's wild how they get into this, like, I don't know, like you're introduced. I don't know if they were just like expecting you to be like, clearly they're like emergency response,
yeah.
some kind
The
of
movie just
like
opens.
nuclear
The movie
thing.
opens with this happening. There's no setup. There's no like anything. It's just this is happening.
Yeah,
So yeah, and then we meet Michael Caine, and then we immediately learn that bees are the culprit here, and they're traveling a whole 7 miles per hour. And
yeah,
then the bees kill. They get their first, well, not their first
yep,
blood on their hands, but the first blood we see
yes,
is we see them misguide some really terrible actors in helicopters to their deaths. And one of
yes,
these scenes, one of the helicopters, the second one that dies, the one that radios in to report what's happening, this is some of the funniest bad acting I've ever seen. It is
yeah.
really, really bad.
Oh
As
yeah,
he is reacting to the bees in a similar way to
yeah,
Nicolas Cage from Wicker Man. Just
yes.
the bees, I can't steer, and just crash.
It was.
Oh God,
Oh
it's
man,
so
see,
bad.
I enjoyed that in a so bad it's good way, and
Yes.
that I thought was like, okay, that sets the tone. I'm actually kind
Yeah.
of excited.
And this is where we
Uh,
get like Michael Caine's the first personality of Michael Caine in this movie
yes,
is standing stoic, reacting to nothing, because that's what he
yeah,
does during this first part.
yeah. He's just super calm. Like,
That does not
uh,
stay.
no, no, because oh man, wow, him getting his point across is just so.
Yes. And he
Oh
has
my
to
god.
because as soon as other doctors and the generals and other people show up, they none of them believe that bees are doing this. None of them. And he
No.
keeps trying to calmly explain it, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Well, I'm a research scientist. That people in the White House know me. I own a kick-ass van. Have you seen it?" Like, yeah, I just came into a military base with my van.
Yeah.
What of it?
Yeah. In the movie,
Stand back. You're stepping on my dick.
I feel like the movie sort of treats that, like them being suspicious of him, as like, well, these people are just being ridiculous or something. I'm like, no, I think that's correct. I think you should
Yeah.
be suspicious of.
Oh Lord.
I mean, that's, why wouldn't you be? Oh, but then, Lord,
Why wouldn't you be?
then why wouldn't you be?
Speaking of
But
B, the soundtrack, the notes of the movie, the theme of the movie, the chords or the notes are B, E, and E apparently, according to the composer.
oh my Lord,
So there you go.
that's
We're getting
that's.
double, triple B's.
Oh man,
uh,
that is a composer after my own heart. I appreciate that level of
yes,
just sticking to the joke, just like,
exactly,
oh man.
exactly. Speaking of sticking to
But
the joke, we cut to a
yeah,
family enjoying what would be a lovely picnic.
yeah,
Um,
they just, hey, the
Hey
guy's
Paul.
starving.
Hey Paul. Hey Paul. Look at this. Hey Paul.
Yeah,
Look at that. That's what they keep saying. They really
yeah,
want you to know this fucking kid's name is Paul. Thank
yes.
God.
Oh my God, they said
Eh,
that kid's name.
Like
So I was like,
100
okay,
times in the
that's.
first 10 minutes. Paul. Hey Paul. Look at this, Paul. Hey Paul, go to the car and get us our drugs, Paul. And then while Paul is doing that, bee attack, bitch. And this is
Yeah.
also where we see our first bee vision.
Oh
And
yeah,
the entire day
that
is
I
ruined
was.
as mom and dad are killed by bees.
Yep. Oh man, I will say,
That child
at the
is going to be
beginning of
traumatized.
this, oh, absolutely. At the beginning of this, like when this scene started, and the way the kid was acting, I was like, he's doing a really good job. Like
Yeah.
I was
The
fully
child
on
was one
board.
of the better performances in the whole movie.
Definitely.
Like
Like,
he did a
uh,
very good job.
I think so. Like I bought it. I was like,
I
holy
feel
yeah,
like he
that
looked at the
is.
cast and was like, "Okay, I need to show up for this one."
Yes.
One of these actresses was in Gone with the Wind, and then everyone else was like, "Yeah, I don't give a fuck." That's it. That's it. That's
So,
it.
but yeah, the little kid, I will say, I was impressed.
Yeah, he does a good
And
job. He does a very good job.
but after that happens, is it after that happens, then we get the president on the
Yeah,
phone on like this video.
the president's one of the president's generals shows up on what I guess is like a 1970s FaceTime
Yeah,
because he can like interact with them and he can see exactly what they see. And this keeps showing up as like, I guess, hidden government tech that they have that,
yeah.
doesn't need to be explained. It just
Oh
exists.
yeah. No, it's
Just
it's
don't worry about it.
it's that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, while this is happening, the kid is who flees the mom and dad being killed by bees in his fucking nice Mustang. He
Yes.
drives and crashes into town. And well, as soon as that happens, Michael Caine is put in direct command by the president and has absolutely no limits on his power at all. Huh.
It's so silly. It's
Wonder how that could happen.
yeah, really. That would never happen in real life.
Yeah, yeah. And immediately the generals that are working with him don't trust him and they're like, keep an eye on him. So they kind of set up
Yeah,
a spy network on him pretty much immediately.
correctly though.
Correctly.
It's
Correctly. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
like they yeah he the way the general says it, like, I just don't I don't buy that this guy would just happen to be here, the world's foremost leading expert in this particular thing,
The
with all this
entire
like.
time, the entire time I was waiting for at the very end of it, Michael Caine to be like, and I am a bee. And just
Rip his face off.
rip his face off.
And
And attack Helena. Join the swarm. That's what I
Oh.
thought was gonna happen. I was like, what if the whole setup is that he's gonna like, oh, we found the mating call. We're gonna do this, and everyone's like, yeah, yeah, we trust him, and he's just like setting it up to get more bees to come, and then he reveals, I am a bee. And then different
That
movie
would,
idea, completely
oh, that would
different
be
movie
great.
idea.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Oh
Well,
God.
because
So
it was very suspicious for him to be there and be
it's
this prepared for this
extremely,
specific thing.
extremely suspicious. His only answer is like, well, I told them this was going to happen for years. He told
Yeah.
them that Africanized bees were going to swarm the southeast of Texas and attack civilians
Ah,
indiscriminately because they were alerted to the sound that happens to mimic that of a trapped queen mating.
oh
That's a
my
lot of
God.
fucking coincidences to happen that you planned.
Honestly.
Yeah, no, I don't trust him at all. I don't trust
No.
his fucking ass at all. Speaking of not trusting him, fucking Helena trusts him just fine because upon
Oh
meeting
yeah.
him for just a few minutes is like, hey, there's this kid named Paul who somehow I know. Don't ask me how. But anyway, I know him. He's in town and he's distressed because he just saw his parents killed by bees. We got to
Yeah.
go check on him. And in spite of now being in control of all of this, having all of
Yeah.
this responsibility, he does not delegate anyone to go in town to check on the kid. Instead,
No.
he's like, no, we'll go with them. This is a repeating theme he does where he just
Yes.
leaves in the middle of like making these really important decisions to go
Yeah.
check on whatever it is going on
Well,
with this
yeah.
girl that he seems to have the hots for.
And this kind of becomes an issue for me, that the movie kind of just keeps going without him. Like the general is making decisions, like or coming up with these plans, and
Yeah,
it's like, and Michael Caine becomes all critical of them. And I'm like, well, where the hell have you been? What have you been
exactly.
doing?
No, at no point does the general ever be like, "Sir, you spent the last 5 hours in town trying to chase this woman's ass around,
Yeah,
playing fuck all with Paul. Like, we have to make realistic decisions while people are dying. I'm sorry, maybe stay here if you're going to be the one in charge." Just a
yeah.
thought. No one ever says that to him. They're all just like,
No,
"Yeah, no, it makes sense that he goes into town because that's what happens. He goes into town to check on Paul." And
yeah.
Paul is having a nightmare where he sees bees, and this is fucking
Uh,
hysterically silly. In
so
fact, the only upside of him going into town is that we get this stupid scene of Paul seeing
yes.
this giant fucking bee that is
The giant
horribly done.
bee. I will say this about that. At first, when this was first introduced with this character, with this Paul character, I thought, oh, okay, the kid is really traumatized. He is in the earliest stages of PTSD. He
Hmm.
is full on traumatized. He saw his parents killed by bees. That this is how he's reacting to it. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I get it, But then, boy, do they kill that.
Yeah, no, that immediately is gone as a plot. Instead, we get more and more romantic subplots that literally all fall off of a cliff. Literally,
Yes.
they fall off of a fucking cliff in the goddamn movie. The
Yes.
subplots fall off of a fucking cliff. I'm not joking. Speaking of subplots, one of the subplots is that Michael Caine is demanding that all these scientists from all over the country be flown in. And so
Yes.
that's what we spend the
I
next few minutes of the movie doing is like meeting this ragtag bunch of scientists that are going to come help save the world from these bees.
so I know like the episode was last week, but for us we just talked about it about
Hmm.
hundreds of beavers where we said everything pays off. Everything has a final, is like it's important. Every little thing that happens.
Yeah.
This movie is the exact opposite.
Oh yeah, no. This movie sets up a lot of things and then is like, fuck that.
Yeah,
Who gives a shit?
exactly.
So one of the scientists is skeptical of Michael Caine's plan, and Michael Caine's resolution to that is just scream at
Yeah.
him. Just scream
Yeah.
him down. Like,
I
you
love that
twiddling little
his
piece of shit. Accept my truth. Reject
yeah.
your own.
He
Die.
he that 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 skeptical scientist, his intro to the whole thing is just like, I'm here against my will or something. It's like,
Yeah.
well, hold on.
Yeah. He
You
doesn't want
can't
to be
say
there.
no.
Apparently not. Apparently this
I
is too
mean, how
important.
much
And
how much
the
power
only
does this Michael Caine have?
the only thing he brings up, the only point of like the point that he brings up, and he says the difference between an Africanized bee and a regular North American bee is like there's 26 distinct differences. So
Yeah.
you would have to do all these different tests to
Yes.
verify this. And Michael Caine's reaction to that is, let me get a piece of paper from my slideshow and show you this one example.
Yeah.
Point proven. That's literally what he just argued against. That said, like, yes, that's one test, but what about the other 25 that we would need to run first? No,
Yes.
fuck that noise.
No.
And then Michael Caine's like, all right, you're in charge. So, and then we don't see him again until pretty much the end of the movie.
Yeah, which does not go well for him.
It does not go well for him. Instead we jump back to the town and we meet more and more of these like characters that are at the committee meeting that he invites in, because he invites the mayor and the leader of the school board. And so the leader of the school board has got these two guys after her, and one of them, who gives a shit, literally, because all these things that they set up, all of them all lead to the town being evacuated, right? That's all what we're building up to, is the town being evacuated. Once the town is evacuated, they all get on this big train. What happens to the train? The bees attack it and it falls off of a fucking cliff. What happens to all the characters on the train? The subplots, the romances, all them, they all die in the fucking train. They fall off of a cliff. So none of that shit mattered.
Nope.
Why is it in the goddamn movie?
Really?
This is a movie that does not need it, because it's almost 3 hours long. Like, we do not need padding. If any movie did not need padding, this movie does not need padding. I don't give a shit about the fucking teacher and the fucking school and the fucking romance. I don't give a shit about any of that. We can get rid of all of that. Get rid of all of it. I don't give a shit about any of it. We already have a romance that doesn't need to be in this movie. Like, we got one. We don't need 3 more.
And then, was it around this time, or was it after, where we get Slim Pickens?
Oh yeah, Slim Pickens shows up, and he's the one. Yeah. He shows up a little before all that happens. Yeah,
he shows a little before that. Yeah, because he's the dad of one of the soldiers that was at the base. Yeah, that was stationed there before they all got there.
Yeah, he shows up and cries his way to his one scene, and then disappears again.
Yeah, it basically. I mean, I don't. Again, I mean, I guess this could have been made a little bit more, I don't know, important or something, but it just happens and it's done and it's over, and I mean, I basically forgot about it immediately. So
yeah, he just shows up.
Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens is great. Yeah. We'll talk about him when we watch Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, he shows up and it's just basically like, I'm gonna shut power off for you if you don't let me see my son. And they're like, all right, come see him. All right, he sees him and he's like, oh, he's dead, and he cries. And then Michael Caine sits there kind of emotionless, and that's it. And we move on.
Well, then he's like, I'm going to take him. And he's like, well, you can't take him. And he's like, you're going to have to shoot me if you want to stop me. And they're just like, all right. And it's like,
all right, then.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that could have been a really cool, like, human moment. And it's sort of treated like that. But
yeah,
they do not. I mean, they just barely react to it. So, like, it would have been nice if they'd have been, like, holding it in or something, like, visibly shaken by it. But they're barely. Like, Michael Caine, not at all. The general has more emotion about it, but even then, it's just, all right, now back to the movie, I guess.
Back to the movie, yeah. Speaking of back to the movie, to the movie as Paul and the kids play the old 70s hide the dumpster trick, because that's what they're going to do to the bees. They're going to agitate the bees and then hide inside the dumpster cans as these little playful rascals kind of agitate the bees, which unfortunately, as we find out, leads to the bees making their way to the city and killing people.
This reminded me, we didn't talk about this other thing. I'll get to that. But I will say, again, with this kid, totally believable reaction. Like, that's these bees killed his parents. This is the kind of thing I probably would, grab some Molotov cocktails and just, burn the bees.
And later on, Michael Caine tells him, I would have done the same thing if that would happen to my kids. And then they kind of connect over like a mutual trauma. They both lost their parents. Michael Caine lost his parents to a fire. He lost his parents to bee attacks. Yes, we have a lot in common, kid.
Yeah,
we have a lot in common.
A rare human moment for this character, of Michael Caine.
Yeah.
But the thing that happens before that, in relation to Michael Caine and where Paul's parents are killed, he's like these little things on little white things on the ground or whatever, and he holds it up to the general, and the general's like, "Well, I don't know what that is," and he's like, "It's a piece of plastic. It's from a plastic cup, and they're building their nest with it," and it's like, so what? I don't. It goes nowhere.
Yeah,
Means nothing.
it doesn't really come up in a relevant way. It
And
feels
he
like it
can.
wanted to make like an ecological statement, like Captain
I
Planet, and just fell
Yeah.
flat on its face and was like, "There, let's move
Oh,
on."
it was like, well, first of all, how the hell did you know that that was from plastic cups? What about that made you know
He's
that's
a
from a plastic cup?
scientist.
Oh, of
He
course. And
scientists
the
just know things.
oh man, and
It's
it was
like, it's like the Tara Reid logic. How do you know that she's a scientist? You put on glasses.
Mhm.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's how you know. I'm a scientist. That's how that
So yeah, there
works.
was a lot of things in this movie where I was just like, oh, come on.
Yeah,
It doesn't even.
this movie is extremely padded. Yeah,
Oh
the
yeah.
fact that we are blowing through large portions of it is intentional because if not, we
Oh
would
yeah.
literally spend 3 fucking hours talking
Oh,
about this
oh
this
yes.
disastrously long of a movie.
Oh yeah.
So more shit happens. Paul is telling about his trauma.
Hmm.
We learn more about everything that happens. It's kind of none of this stuff really fucking matters, honestly.
No.
Like a lot
The
of it is just kind of developing this slub plot, and they
Yeah,
get trapped in a
we
cooler, and then you think like, oh, well, they're going to be stuck in a cooler for a little while. Nope.
yeah,
Next scene, they're out of the cooler. Everything's
yeah.
fine. Helena's at the doctor. How did they get out? What? Like
Yeah, there was
that's
no.
like why? How? Okay,
Yeah.
sure,
Well,
sure.
and when we start getting into her going to the doctor,
Yeah.
oh god. Then we find out. This is where I was just so frustrated. I was kind of done at this point, but we had a long way to go.
Oh yeah, you're
I
like halfway through at this point.
Yeah.
You still have another hour and 40 minutes left.
Oh god. When we find out that giant bee thing dream that Paul was having
Yeah.
was not PTSD.
No.
That's what the fucking bee venom does to you. That makes
Yeah.
no sense.
The bee venom makes you hallucinate and see bees. Is that not what it's
Yes.
supposed to do?
When you get stung by something, don't you see a giant version of that thing?
I see it all
And
the time. That happens to me daily.
oh god, I
I was
oh
once
that
bitten by an ant, and oh man, I've been seeing ants ever since. They haunt me
well,
in my dreams. Yeah.
it's giant ones. Um,
Oh, yeah.
that part, like, I thought, oh, this is really, this is a thing. We're watching, a visual representation of this young boy being traumatized and his mind kind of breaking over that or something. No,
Yeah.
no, no. It's just a hallucination from the venom. That's what it does.
That's what it does to you,
That
baby.
pissed me off. That genuinely made me mad when they did that because I was like, they took the one thing from me that I thought was smart.
See,
You know?
I was honestly hoping that at one point the bee hallucination would talk to him, and then it would be like, "Come to us, become a bee,"
Oh,
and then he would like jump out the window thinking he was a bee, and then that would be like
oh,
a whole subplot about the bees are
they're
anthropomorphic
recruiting.
and they're recruiting people. None of
Oh
that
my
happens,
god.
and none of that happens. But
Oh man, there's a
unfortunately,
good movie right there. Well, I say good,
is that
but
a good
there's
movie?
well, maybe not, but there's a movie idea where the bees are actually like making instead, like because they have worker bees that basically do
Yeah,
whatever the queen wants,
yeah.
turning people into that
Ah,
and
you know
then
who the queen could
controlling.
be. You know who the queen
Oh,
needs to be. Kamala Harris. Now.
oh god. Oh,
That was it. That's how you get them. That's how you get
you
the
get
whole
'em.
audience that the conservatives won't go to
I
the
was
movies
about to
because they
say,
hate Hollyweird. You get them
yep.
in by pulling them in. Didn't see that one
uh,
coming.
yep.
There you go. Now that's a terrible idea. And this is a
It's a
terrible
terrible
movie.
idea.
And
But
speaking of
yeah, there's
terrible movies, the next thing of substance that happens in this terrible movie is when the bees attack the train, and almost all of the
oh
subplots in this movie are killed off as we spend the next
yeah,
like hour and 30 minutes just focused on Michael Caine and Helena and
yeah,
what's going on with them trying to save the world, which
yep.
thank
Well,
God,
and we
because
also
we
have
didn't really need all that shit, honestly.
oh yeah, no, it was a welcoming like end to that part. I was like, I
Hmm.
don't want to see any more of this. Like,
No,
I
yeah,
don't want
fuck
to see
all
any
you
more of
people.
them.
Fuck all the way off.
Like, yeah. So that part I was fine with. Now, I don't remember how far I kind of lost track about the sequence of events here.
Yeah.
By now, I'm like, okay, everything kind of just sort of goes into one
So
at this point.
this is at this point is when Paul talks to his scientist buddy, the one that's in the wheelchair, and basically
Yes.
tells him that like, hey, I need you to make an injection that people can take to put this venom. So he tries it on himself, and it kind of works at
Oh,
first, and then
that,
it ends up
yes.
killing him. So that's kind of where we are in the movie.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the first doctor to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The next one dies shortly after because we shortly next cut to a nuclear power plant that is also being overtaken by bees. And yeah, the
Yes.
bees are able to overtake the nuclear power plant. And yeah. And unfortunately, this is another part where I thought the bees were going to become anthropomorphic and
Yep.
nuke us, and you start launching nukes at Russia and stuff and causing World War III. That is not what happens. The bees do not decide to launch nuclear
No.
attacks. Instead, they just blow some shit up.
Yep.
That's it. That's all that happens. And because of this, Crane loses control. We do get told that Crane, you're no longer in control. God damn it.
Hmm. Well, because
So
he's barely been in control as it is.
yeah, he keeps leaving, and all of
Yeah.
his decisions seem to be backfiring.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
even though he's not in control, he's still kind of the one making all the choices because
Yes.
he immediately, even though they told him you're not in control, he immediately tells people like what to do within the
Yeah.
same scene. So
Yeah.
what's the point of that?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then we get a weather report explaining why the bees are not attacking anywhere else other than southeast Texas, and is because well, there's a storm front moving in. It's making everything cold, and the bees don't like the
Yes.
cold, don't you know?
Yep.
Don't you know? And so because the bees are not attacking anywhere else, they're kind of focused centrally on Houston and
Yes.
that corner of Texas. And why not? Why
I
not
mean,
have a movie set in that little armpit region?
yeah.
You need it.
Part I've never been.
It's busy. That's it.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone tell me like I love Houston. That's never been a sentence I think I've ever heard anyone say. But
Now, I
maybe
will
I'm
say
wrong.
some people
Maybe.
I've talked to that live in Houston that they talk about how great it is, like the multiculturalism of it. Like
Yeah.
you could just go to an area where it's like, you know, um, like get like Moroccan or Nigerian or like Ethiopian food, and like
That's cool.
that's like a corner of that where that's predominantly the language spoken around there, like
Oh,
those kind of
hey,
languages. You
that's
get
cool.
Thai places, you get Vietnamese places, and they're just like corners of the city where like that's just the culture.
Yeah.
I was like,
We
that
have
is
a
awesome, actually.
we have a little bit of that here in Memphis. Like
Yeah.
we have a whole stretch of places on like Cleveland and Summer that are known for having several different Vietnamese restaurants or
Awesome.
Chinese restaurants and kind of having a little or Ethiopian
Yeah.
restaurants kind of in little areas. And the
See, I
people that run
like
those restaurants kind of live in the surrounding areas. So kind of a cool
Yeah,
little kind of
and that
helpful
makes
area.
sense, you
Yeah.
know. And I mean,
Yeah.
while I'd like it to be more spread out of that kind of idea, it makes sense why they would kind of live where they work. So,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
um,
Easier
but
to keep an eye on your stuff too.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So, speaking
yeah.
of keeping an eye on your stuff, the
Oh,
general is
nice.
keeping an eye on the bees, and his option is to bomb them with pesticides. Cancer rates be
Yes.
damned. And this,
Oh
of
yeah.
course, doesn't work. And who knew it wasn't going to work? Michael Caine, as he says, like,
Oh
I
yeah.
feared this was happening. Why did you not say something beforehand?
Yeah, really. But like, hey, by the way,
Yeah,
your
at any
whole
point in
idea that
time.
I'm against you using pesticides because you could kill the North
Nope.
American bees that we are dependent on.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the
Yeah.
bees you're trying to target might not be affected. Why didn't that come up?
Who knows? Fuck
I
all
mean,
that because instead we're
mm,
just going to use fire. So instead we just get scenes of people spraying fire
yeah,
into the air and hitting
which
absolutely nothing. You just have to imagine the bees are there. You can't
yeah,
tell.
it's
Just pretend it's fine.
I can't imagine a more like I don't know, like just a throwing I don't know, like basically like throwing like you have a literal swarm of bees in real life and you just throw
Hmm.
a rock in the middle of it. Like that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's
While this
it's
is happening, Helena is on the verge of dying and is
yes.
seeing more hallucinations about bees,
Yes.
while Michael Caine is having an existential crisis, feeling defeated
Mhm.
and feeling all down and blue. None of his ideas
Yep.
are working on how to defeat the bees. Oh,
Yeah.
it's almost like maybe you didn't plan this out very well, in spite of apparently knowing this was going to happen for years.
But he had a
Anyway,
kick-ass van.
he has a kick-ass fucking van, though, man. He's got that for him. Crane is then able to discover why the bees came here in the first place, and it has everything to do
Yes.
with a vibration in
Yeah.
the alarm for the military base that
Oh,
matches
yeah,
the
'cause
frequency of
yeah,
the
'cause he
mating
keeps listening to
call
that
of the bees.
yeah, 'cause he keeps listening to that recording
Yes,
where
again and
they
again. Yeah, the
where
only
where
thing in the
the
movie that pays off is this.
yes, 100%. And it's really treated weird because,
Yeah,
like, they, uh the general and like the army folk are like, yeah, we listened to it. We didn't get anything from it. And I
yeah,
was like, okay, well, clearly he's going to get something from this. And they missed because
yeah. They
he's a
set that up.
scientist. He can do no wrong, you know.
Yeah, he is a
And-
scientist after all. He is
yes.
the scientist. So he's
But
discovered this, and then immediately after discovering this, the bees attack, and pretty much everyone dies except for Crane and Helena, as they've decided they're going to enact Crane's plan to combat the bees by basically playing the sound at a different
yep.
place, and that's going to cause the bees to leave where they are. And this is where
Yes.
we actually get kind of like a cool little scene of fire and
Yeah.
explosions. Like, this is probably the most well done part of the movie.
Yeah.
You can see that this is like a guy who did a lot of disaster movies. A
Yeah.
young Michael Bay frantically masturbated while watching this, I imagine. As things blow up, very, very nice here.
Oh.
So the movie actually ends with an explosion as Michael Bay and Helena give each other a little smooch as they talk about how we're not sure if the bees can be defeated, but we're
Yeah.
going to keep trying. And then, yeah, more explosions happen in the background. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really bad movie.
Oh, it's so bad.
It definitely has moments that are so bad they're good. Michael Caine's performance is especially so bad it's good, as he
Yes.
has two notes: screaming and quiet, and that is it.
Yes.
Several of the other performances are also really bad. Several, like the helicopter pilots.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the actors that are really good elsewhere, like I said, eight Oscar
Yeah.
nominees are here in the cast. Henry Fonda is actually, I don't know if I mentioned him. He's in this as well.
Oh, yeah.
And none of them seem to give a shit about doing very well in this movie. The best
No.
performance, like we talked about, is probably the kid, Paul. Like, he
Yeah.
probably is the best of any of them.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody else didn't show up to work, and it
Yeah.
shows. If the
Oh,
movie
yeah.
was shorter, you could probably salvage it and say it's like so bad it's good. But
Yeah.
because it's so goddamn long, it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
gratuitous. It's hard to watch. The movie that it reminds me the most of is Cutthroat Island, because
Oh, okay,
it
yeah.
similarly to, like, it's you want it to be so bad it's good, and it kind of is in moments, but
Mhm.
like it just keeps going and going and going, and to the point
Yes.
where you're like, oh god, okay, yeah, this is just bad. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit anymore. This is another movie similar to Texas Gladiators where I watched the last like 20 minutes of the fast forward just because like I was struggling to get through it. I was like, I just want this to end. I don't give a
Oh,
shit.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
give a shit about any of this. I don't think any of this stuff matters. Like, none of these. Apparently, half of our subplots are just going to fall off of a fucking cliff. So does any of this
Yeah.
matter? I don't think it does. Anyway,
I don't
your
think so.
thoughts. What did you think about the swarm?
Oh, God. There were some things I like early on, I kind of got on board with.
Yeah.
And I think it was about 30 minutes in, maybe not quite 30, but about 30 minutes in, I was like, oh, this is just going to be awful. This is just going to be the worst 2.5 hours. This is a chore at this point. Like, I knew pretty early on, like, all right, I any faith I had, gone. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was pretty quick to just kind of dismiss it as like, well, this is the only time I'm watching this movie. But now
Yeah.
that I know about this like shorter cut, I'm kind of looking forward to that. So,
I am interested
Um,
in seeing the shorter cut and seeing what that looks like.
I mean, it
This
can't
is
be worse.
definitely a paycheck movie for pretty much everyone involved.
Oh, yeah. Which I
And
like about that.
it
I'm not
really
gonna lie to
shows.
you.
It really definitely shows.
I like stories like that for some reason. I enjoy hearing like they're just doing the work and I don't know, it almost humanizes actors because they're like
Hmm.
they don't seem like they're so full of themselves artists or something when they do something like that. It's just like,
Yeah,
yeah, they're
yeah,
just like us. They just need money, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So
Definitely, I can definitely see some of that. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I should
yeah,
say.
oh yeah,
We're going to switch on over, take a little break. I hear the auntie calling us one last time during our month of February.
hmm
So we're going to see what we're going to watch next week for our last week of February, and then figure out what we're going to do for March going forward. So thank
yeah.
you guys for listening, and we'll see you in a second.
We'll see you.
Hello, y'all. Thank y'all for listening to us talk tonight about the Swarm. We're going to end out the month of February and face Auntie's final challenge for us. And then we'll move into the month of March with big plans as we talk about every single fucking Left Behind movie.
Yeah,
I feel like we're entering into a realm of facing Christian nationalism at the head front. So why not
yeah,
look at some movies about some good old
yeah.
Christian nationalism? And hey, along the way, we'll get a chance to talk about everyone's favorite Kirk Cameron,
Oh yes.
everyone's favorite Nicolas Cage, yeah,
Hey, yeah,
and
I'm excited about that.
why sometimes you have to do things you regret to pay off tax debt. Because
Oh
that's what
man,
I think
that's
Nicolas Cage did that for.
oh yeah, and that's also, by the way, title of my autobiography.
Title of my autobiography is Dodging the Government since 1987. Anyway,
Nice.
you're not doing a successful job at it.
Yeah, not
They
anymore.
cut all my shit. Speaking of getting all my shit, we're about to spin the wheel and make the deal one last time
Yes.
for see what Auntie has in store for us as we continue to watch some of the movies that she has dubbed in the least good amongst the post-apocalyptic dregs, and there are a lot of
Mhm.
them, so these are not
Yeah.
necessarily an exhaustive list. Here is our list once again. Into the World from 2018 with a
Mm.
boring title. Ocean's
Yeah.
Rising from 2017 with a pretty apt title there. You know what it's about.
Yep.
Number three is The Last Light 2014. Um,
Mhm.
Extinction, the GMO Chronicles from 2011. No fucking clue. Solar Attack from 2006. Kind of speak of the devil there with Ocean's Rising. You see the
Yeah.
opposite. Battle of the Worlds from 1961, some 60s sci-fi. Speaking of 60s sci-fi, Roger Corman's The Last Woman on Earth, which is a
Oh.
exactly what it sounds like, the Vincent Price movie we watched, except gender flipped.
But it
Replace
has the bonus of
right,
being Roger Corman.
Roger Corman. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hey, that could be a fun one. We could talk a lot
Oh,
about Roger Corman.
I love
Um,
Roger Corman.
Replacing the Swarm from last week comes Hell Comes to Frogtown,
Oh
starring
yes.
Roddy Piper. And
The man.
Space Truckers from 1997, Dennis Hopper movie there,
Hell
and
yeah.
1999's A Nymphoid Barbarian in Dinosaur Hell. Or actually, I think
Oh,
that's from 1990. I may have wrote down the wrong date. It
oh
does
yeah.
not matter. What
It
does
doesn't matter.
matter is me shuffling these numbers up. Here's my random number generator. Do. Done.
All
All
right.
right. You roll that dice and tell me what number
All
you
right.
get, and I'll tell you what the hell we're ending February with.
All
It's
right.
been a
One
long
last
month.
spin.
One
One
last
last
spin.
roll of the dice.
One last time.
I got 6.
Six. Do. 6 is going to get us Space Truckers.
Yes.
Yeah, Space Truckers. So Space Truckers is from 1997. This is a movie I own, and I really, really enjoy it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've watched it several times.
So this is a
If
movie I've wanted to watch several times
uh-huh.
and just never happened.
Oh, dude, this is for those listeners that have been paying attention for a while. This is another one of those movies that I discovered late night on HBO Cinemax and did
Yes.
not know the name of for
Oh,
years and years and years, and then finally figured out as an adult, like in college, that it was called Space Truckers, and I was like, oh, that's the name of it. Shit, okay, and then was able to finally track down a copy of it. And yeah, this is one that I have held on to the DVD of for a while because it is a movie that
yeah.
I really really enjoy quite a bit. So yeah,
See,
next
that's
week. we will end February by talking about space truckers. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was gonna say that's one of those things. That's an experience that a lot of people, like younger folks, don't get is not knowing what movie you're watching and then finding out years later.
That's true. That
It's
is
an
true.
experience. Oh, it's such a sensation.
That was an experience that only a certain age of us can relate to. Those younger,
Yep.
unfortunately, that's a world that you did not live in. Maybe one day,
Nope.
maybe when Master Blaster Mind Fjord turns off the internet because it's
Yeah, I was
talking
gonna
shit
say.
about him, then you'll experience what we're talking about. But
Yeah.
we'll see if that happens. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys next week as we talk about space truckers. See you then.
Yeah. Take it easy.
196.
Just lost contact with Command Post 3 outside the second perimeter.
It's right outside!
Someone has developed the ultimate destructive force. All they need is a man who'll deliver.
What have you got?
It is a rush shipment to Earth.
No questions asked.
We'll do it.
Geez, I've never seen trailers like these before. They look,
Creepy.
You better power down, Canyon.
It's coming! Look out!
You gotta tell us how to stop these things.
Dennis Hopper, Stephen Dorff, and Debbie Mazar.
Fire it up!
Space Truckers.